The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Grand Canyon University, an affordable private Christian university, is one of the largest and fastest growing universities in the country, offering more than 270 programs online. In addition to federal grants and aid, GCU's online students received nearly $130 million in institutional scholarships in 2022. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer to see the scholarships you may qualify for.
Following program are pre-recorded. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spiess from The Crude Life. And, of course, This Week in Energy. You can catch it Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And, Jason, a lot has gone on. We talked to, on Monday, I had an opportunity to talk with Kurt John, a pipeline engineer, and we kind of ran through a bunch of facts and fiction and different things about CO2 and CO2 pipelines and the dynamics of moving it, injecting it, and all sorts of other cool things that I don't think most people know. And I was talking to Kurt off air, actually, and because he's been around a long time and worked in the energy sector for a long time. And I was like, you know what I've been noticing is the fact that we're seeing more and more and more articles coming out saying that, wait a minute, this whole CO2 thing, it's a little bit of a scam. It's a little bit prefaced. It's an agenda. And I have always said this, Jason, you know me, anything that turns into an agenda for political reasons, we're all doomed. What's your thought? What have you been seeing out there?
Well, I've seen the gamut when it comes to carbon. We've been, at least at the Crude Life, and, one of the reasons that we even started ESG University when we did was because of the emerging carbon market. Primarily people in the oil and gas sector, they flat out, told us to get the heck out and we're crazy and all this other stuff. Well, now they're the ones trying to become the leaders in it. They're trying to push everybody aside just because there's subsidies involved. So the sad part in this whole thing is that it's all subsidy driven. So that means it's all government driven. So therefore the free market is going away or has gone away, at least in that market. It has.
Yeah, I would say has gone away.
Yeah, I would think so. And then when you take a look at some of the other areas with economic grants and a few other things, the free market has really gone away in a lot of those areas too. So I used to say this all the time that, the oil and gas industry was the last bastion for capitalism. And, there's kind of a lot of truth behind that. And what I saw happen, and we tried to, we wrote about this 12 years ago, that North Dakota was one of the leaders in the Bakken in the oil and gas industry for a lot of reasons, technology driven, some of the history with the Laird Library, and just a number of different.
And had a head start. And we watched North Dakota with fracking and horizontal drilling and the marriage of the two, and North Dakota had a 10-year head start, and then it was 9, and then it was 7, and then it was 4, and then everybody else caught up. And is North Dakota behind now?
Of course. Take a look at the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference. It's not even about petroleum this week. It's about carbon management, Steve. They're actually advertising that the whole conference is mostly about carbon management. Okay, so where was that 2-3 years ago when I was trying to talk about that? When I was trying to have civil conversations and you were tribal aggressively thumping me back. Now they're at the front of the line. And that's the problem with this, Steve, is that so when you have the government now picking winners and losers, this is where you have real problems. You have real problems because Now they're just going to go with the same old, same old. And especially in North Dakota, where you've got appointed leaders and elected officials that apparently can just own companies that get subsidy dollars. So now there's zero motivation for anyone to do any work in the state of North Dakota. The government has grown in so many different areas. And the film example's the best. The film example's the best because 24 media companies came forward, signed a petition to say, Commerce, you are corrupt. What you just did is corrupt. And I've said this from day one. In 1 year, go back and see how many of those media companies are still in business, Steve, because that's what's happening. Take a look at what the oil and gas industry has done to the media companies out in Western North Dakota. There's not a daily newspaper left. Most of the magazines are out of business. The Bakken Oil Business Journal, they're out of business. The Tioga newspaper's out of business. You've got most of the radio stations out of business. The whole eastern side of Montana, that radio conglomerate there, they've gone through the war. I mean, I don't even know if there's a full-time radio employee left.
Well, actually, there was just a sales took place, 11 stations packaged up in eastern Montana and a couple in western North Dakota. And
by point
because
exactly.
everybody couldn't make a living.
So, I mean, to me, and this is one of the value systems that's changed, because the way that I grew up doing business with people is that, they would meet your family. It was an investment in each other. It wasn't see how low we can get the price, see how much we can get that family business to sacrifice into us and then pump and dump them, because that's what's happened. The oil and gas industry did a pump and dump on North Dakota because now they're in the carbon business. That's what I think, Steve, has happened.
It's funny because you remember when things started with the shale play in 2010, things really got on their own 2 feet. And as things were progressing, the one question people kept asking in the background were the big players? Why isn't Shell and BP and those big companies, why aren't they here?
Well, they kind of were.
Maybe a subsidiary of one of those companies.
Exxon
but now you're looking at them looking at getting in here, because what those big companies do is, and I'll go back to the media side. You take a look at the big companies that own a lot of the broadcast properties. There's not a lot of mom and pop broadcasters anymore, or newspapers. The big companies, it's like, oh, okay, that's matured. So now we can strangle and then buy that asset for pennies on the dollar without having to do the R&D, without having to do the groundwork, without having to build up that industry. Now we're just going to take over that matured industry.
Steve, it's the reason that for the last several years, I've been trying to explain that this has happened in the farming industry and this has happened in the media industry. So when I try to explain what the oil and gas industry is going through, which is a paradigm shift, these people who operate in tribal mentality, they cannot understand what is going on, and they should not be in leadership. They're extremely dangerous. I mean, like I said, when you take a look at the oil and gas industry in North Dakota, are you kidding me? When you take a look at what's left, your grandchildren's grandchildren were going to be profiting off the Bakken, according to Lynn Helm, the North Dakota oil and gas regulator. The truth is, your grandchildren's grandchildren are going to be subsidizing Harold Hamm because he's at the front of the line, literally at the Public Service Commission, at the front of the line, asking for them to approve a project that forces single mothers and elderly to give their taxes to him so he can now have a new project. And by the way, let's come back and talk enhanced oil recovery.
Yeah, let's do that next.
They act like this is a done deal. It's not.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because Kurt and I had an opportunity to visit about that a little bit off air.
It's at like the 20-yard line, Steve.
Yeah,
maybe the 20-yard line.
It's got like 80 to go. All right, we're up against a break. We're going to come back and talk about that when we come back. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with my co-host on Wednesdays, Jason Spiess of This Week in Energy. Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
America. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. To serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bike along with Jason Spees of This Week in Energy. Also the Crude Life, ESG University. A lot of different platforms, a lot of information, a lot of good information. You should follow him on his Substacks and different media platforms as well. But we're going to talk about enhanced oil recovery because one of the things Curtis Junt and I had an opportunity to talk about was the fact that you get different messages. And we didn't talk about this on air. We were talking about this off between breaks. But when you're looking at the messaging coming from Summit Carbon Solutions, in one place you're getting one message. In another place you're getting another message. In another place you're getting another message. If you go to their website, you get another message. In fact, in their website, and I don't have it right in front of me to read it verbatim, but I've read it verbatim before on multiple occasions. They say, not for EOR, not for enhanced oil recovery. That's not what this pipeline's for. That's not what it's going to do. It's not part of the project. But yet you get to North Dakota and all we hear is, this is for enhanced oil recovery. This is going to help the oil industry. This is going to save jobs in North Dakota. This is going to be the savior of the ethanol industry. We've got one plant that's tied into this. The other ones, by the way, sequestered locally. We'll get into that a little bit too. But when you're looking at the enhanced oil recovery side of stuff, who's it for? And what can you use it for? Because one of the first things I looked at was when you go in, and this is, over a year ago now, when you go in and look at the language of what those Q45 credits and what those credits have become, the duration of that credit's 12 years, which means sequestered for 12 years. So you're not using any of that is being sequestered in enhanced oil recovery. And Kurt and I had an opportunity to talk a little bit about what the characteristics of CO2 does once it's injected into the ground. What you put in isn't what you pull back out if you want to use it later. Entirely different animals. So where do you think this is going from the message? What's the real game plan here? Because I don't think from a transparency and a business perspective, we've been told anything truthful.
So if you go to global organizations like the energy associations,
World Economic Forum.
Yeah, I'm telling you, go to as green as you want to go. I mean, if you want to go to Greta Thunberg personal blog, okay, whatever you want, man. I mean, how green do you want to go, Steve? How green do you want to go? Well, I mean, totally serious, because that's the justification for all of this. Now,
are we talking greenbacks or are we talking Green New Deal?
Well, that depends on the interpretation and who the receiver is, because really at the end of the day, when you see Harold Hamm in the front row, a Public Service Commission meeting, he's really there no different than but he's no different than Greta Thunberg at that point.
Public hearing.
Well, whatever the Public Service Commission meeting was, he was at, right? He's been at two of them.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So when he's there, he's essentially being Greta Thunberg. He's saying that, listen, the Green New Deal is real, global warming is real, and I want to be a leader in that. So give me your money because we can do all this with it. Now, enhanced oil recovery is one of the things that can be done. The problem with it is that it's at like the 20-yard line. And so there are some benefits, because at the end, Steve, it's carbon negative. So in 2019, the big buzz, and if you take a look at when it's rumored, when North Dakota got involved with the creation of Summit Carbon Solution, I think that the emails that the Watchdog Network pulled up were back 2019 coming out of Commerce. And that's when the global buzz was carbon negative carbon capture, and enhanced oil recovery was part of that. So my guess is that that is the end goal, is that there is some legitimacy globally for those people in charge of the narrative of the Green New Deal and climate change, that this is a leg of the carbon negative. So go ahead.
This is funny, though, because you just reminded me of something, because I remember back in 2018, I had a conversation with the governor because I had been involved with and am currently involved with
Governor Burgum?
Yes, Governor Burgum.
Do you know do you know what the young Republicans call him, by the way, just for a snarky sidebar?
What is that?
Oh, Burgum, like Obama. Oh, Burgum. That's what they call him. That's what the young kids call him that really aren't following Burgum. But anyways, go on.
Well,
what did you and Burgum talk about in 2018?
with the Obama, Biden / Burgum, Miller, there's a lot of similarities, but I different discussion for a different day. So I was having a conversation because I've been involved with an energy project that comes out of Iowa, actually. And part of it was getting rid of the landfills and reclamating landfill space, which, if you want to talk green anything, legitimately, methane, you could say, has the potential for climate change, not CO2. But I was informing the governor on this project I'd been working on because I'm like, hey, this is legit in a direction that North Dakota be the cutting edge on something and would have been a good project. Wasn't asking for money, wasn't asking for buy-in in the project. I was just explaining that, hey, I'm working on something. I've stumbled into something that can meet what your goals are, because this was right after the governor had come out with his agenda for net zero. And at the end of the conversation, again, in the project we were working on, and I still am working on, it's actually a carbon negative project and process. And at the end of the conversation, it was still about net zero, not going beyond, not making a difference. And oh, by the way, there's all these other byproducts. It was net zero, which told me that, okay, you're chasing something already.
Yeah.
What is it?
So when I say that, a lot of this is Ocean's 12, they've already stolen the egg and they're just going through the motions. That's what a lot of this is, because they've already determined what the money goal is. And so it's not about becoming carbon negative. It's not about doing this or that. It's about going to get the money. Steve, I'll tell you what, before we go to the break here, because I know we're up against the clock, I'll tease a perfect example. Okay. It involves public-private partnerships. It involves nonprofits. It involves the way that the system is set up to suppress new ideas, so that then the people who are the elected officials and the appointed leaders can then decide if they want to use the idea for themselves, or if they want to give it to somebody else because maybe they don't like you, maybe they view you as competition, maybe, they don't like it because when you walk into a room, their wife gets all flustered and really just wants to flirt with you and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different reasons that appointed leaders and public officials don't like other people. Okay. Now, Steve, you know that this is a fact, and you and I did not discuss this at all. So I'm going to put you on the spot because you were at least one, if not two, of my fact-checking sessions where one of the top officials in the state validated this is a fact. And the fact is that Ron Ness and the North Dakota Petroleum Council killed $1 million worth of trees through the Petroleum Council Foundation. And that suppressed all kinds of people trying to get into the tree planting business, people doing all kinds of different work. And then guess what? The next year, they still got money. Part of the Fail Forward program. So you kill $1 million worth of trees. And the reason I bring up this example,
all right, tell you what,
I saw in the paper that they advertised that they got some more money. So the newspaper has no problem advertising the promotion, but it's not news when you kill $1 million worth of tree. It's not news.
We're up against the break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about failing forward. And this is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Now you can...
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
1270 on Alexa.
Hiya.
Find out how at supertalk1270.com.
Goodbye.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach, along with my co-host on Wattage Wednesday, Jason Spees. You can catch him with This Week in Energy, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And okay, fail forward. And we've talked about fail forward a lot, but what happened to the teas? I thought you had gone into the teas when we were heading into the break, because we've talked about the tree issue before and what that looks like. But is that the teas, or was that not the teas? What happened to the teas?
Well, I couldn't remember if we had talked about it before, because I just realized there was a bigger story. And the bigger story is, again, the media. The media. We talked about it earlier in the show, how the oil and gas industry hasn't supported the media, how North Dakota has not supported the media. And whether you go into radio stations or newspapers or magazines, take a look at the last 10 years. Go ahead. And then take a look at the number of podcasts that have popped up in the government. Take a look at the number of magazines that have popped up through the government. Okay. You still have magazines doing monthly print runs in the state of North Dakota. I don't even know if there's a monthly print publication left in the nation, because
actually, truth, the only thing propping up small local newspapers are the public notices.
Yeah, and subscribers. Keep in mind, Substack has shown that subscribers, the old school, because if you have content people want, they will pay you for it. And the newspaper has gone the way of saying, no, we just want to take advertising dollars in lump sums, and they don't really care about the reader as much. And I can say that wholeheartedly, because take a look at this forest example. Or this tree planting example. Are you telling me that that's not newsworthy? So,
by all means,
a local nonprofit.
If you had a reporting staff,
seriously. So the Petroleum Council actually starts a new nonprofit. So the nonprofit gets too political, and if you go back to the interview with James McPherson back in 2016 from the press conference, the audio's there, where Ron Ness explains. They got too political, so they had to start this Petroleum Council Foundation. So all of a sudden they get tree planting money. Well, are you telling me that when a nonprofit kills $1 million worth of trees and then they get money again the next year, that's not newsworthy? Well, Bismarck Tribune, Amy Dalrymple, Bill Marcel, Fargo Forum, that's why your newspapers are going down. Are you telling me that's not newsworthy? And by the way, they planted the trees on some politician's property. So there's even that whole angle of a federal election side of it, Steve, to where
in conjunction with another.
Is this a new kickback now?
Well, in conjunction with another nonprofit.
Hey, who's the guy who just got busted? Jason Doctor. Hey, we're gonna go put a second level on your house by the time you get back from court. So don't worry about it. Is that okay? Can I go increase your property value, Steve, and not have to record that with anybody? That's the level of corruption and the level of laziness in the media. Like I start talking about this at the colleges, and I start talking about this in Fargo. Boy, people perk up. People want to know how their money is being wasted, because if the Petroleum Council is killing $1 million worth of trees, and they continue to get money and win. And by the way, I think they even won an award that year. I really believe that the state of Oklahoma, like one of the petroleum councils there, actually gave them an award for killing $1 million worth of trees, Steve. So why would anybody try to compete with that? Seriously, why would anybody try to compete with that? Because all the competition is trying to do is actually make the trees live and plant trees. They killed $1 million worth of trees, and that's the new bar in North Dakota. That's the new bar. And by the way, I know the Petroleum Council's in town this week. So if anybody listening to this, send this to Ron Neff. Send this to Jeff Simon. Send this to Harold Ham so they listen to it. So they know how much power they have. Congratulations. Congratulations. You've actually abused and made your power so corrupt that you can kill $1 million worth of trees and the newspaper won't even report on it. I guess it's because there's no trees left to print newspaper. Ha!
Why did I know that punchline was coming at some point?
Well, it's a little bit, I'm obviously a little passionate behind it because we had kids involved. And Steve, like I said, you were actually involved as the mayor. We had a section of land, and all we got from oil companies, no, Petroleum Council, no, Petroleum Council. I drove down to Texas. Whoop. Oh, you're from North Dakota? Go right back to Ron Ness and the Petroleum Council. And you met Ken, actually, the guy down in Oklahoma.
Right.
That was doing some stuff down there. He actually sat in Continental Resources waiting room for 3 hours with over $100 in pastries for a meeting they stood him up on. Same thing happened to me. I drove down there for a meeting that didn't exist either. So this is common practice. This is common practice. They waste resources. They use other people's money, and they don't care. They just don't care. Like I said, they can kill $1 million worth of trees. And Amy Dalrymple, she's not going to report it. And they know it.
Where I was going with this when we first started visiting today was there's a lot out that I'm seeing more and more in the press and articles and things in print that are coming out that are standing up going, wait a minute, this climate change rabbit hole that you're going down is not going to bear good fruit. And why are you doing it in the first place? Whether it's congressional hearings, articles, scientists that are stepping up, we're hearing more and more. In fact, I've got an article from, actually came from the Canada Free Press. We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Mike Rowe here with a few thoughts on my favorite sweatshirt. A classic zip-up hoodie that used to be navy blue but has since faded to what the fashionistas call a distressed indigo. It's 13 years old, soft as a flannel bathrobe, and after a few hundred dirty jobs, demonstrably and undeniably indestructible. This is the kind of sweatshirt girlfriends like to permanently borrow, but I've held on to this one because I got it from American Giant. American Giant makes all their stuff right here in the USA so they can control every link in their own supply chain. That matters because when you buy American Giant, you not only get great quality, you create jobs for people in factory towns all over the country. No pressure, but if you give a damn about the business of making things in America, you got to support the companies who are doing it right. Go to american-giant.com/Mike to get 20% off your first order. That's american-giant.com/Mike.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess from This Week in Energy. You can catch it Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And, where we started with this was CCUS and carbon capture and underground storage. And the reason this article out of the Canada Free Press caught my eye was it had a really cool little cartoon. So in the cartoon, there was a carbon capture facility and a little worker that was there as this pipeline is pumping CO2 down into the ground. And the worker who has his back turned to what's behind him, the little caption thought bubble is there. That will get rid of that nasty CO2. And then behind him is a volcano and the ocean, and the volcano's little bubble is going, oh yeah, try and get rid of this. Because the volcano spews out more than what we create by many, many multipliers. And it basically in the article, what it boils down to saying is that everything that everybody's trying to do is about chasing dollars, because carbon sequestration is best left to plants and the oceans because they've been doing it for millions of years and pretty successful at it. And now we're going to screw something up because that's what people do when there's a political agenda involved. And how do you argue with that logic? It's like Earth's been managing CO2 for a long time. And where it clicks into me, Jason, is go back to that congressional hearing when you had the panel of experts and it was about transportation and switching over to electric vehicles and alternative fuel sources for transportation. That's what this panel was about. And they asked the panelists, well, do you know what percent of CO2 makes up our atmosphere? And none of them had a clue. And he pushed them on. He's like, no, I want an answer. What do you think makes up our atmosphere? And one said 5. And one said, well, I'll go with 5, but 40 transportation produces 49% of all the CO2 we put in the atmosphere. Okay, but that's not what I asked. Okay, 5. Another one goes 7. And another one goes, well, I'll go a little on the high side and I'll go 8. And then the person asking the question, it's like, it's 0.04, not 0.4, 0.04. And it's gone up 0.01 over the last several decades. And this is what we're fighting with. This is what we're investing trillions of dollars to make people rich and wealthy that should be doing what they do anyway, which is their job in the oil and gas industry, in the pipeline industry, in the ethanol industry. Just do your job. Leave the sequestration, leave the chasing the dollars, leave all the tax credits, leave the political agenda associated with quote unquote climate change, or like I refer to it as the cult of climate change. Leave that to the oceans and the trees and the plants. And by the way, I just read another article. Microsoft invested in another 1 million acres of planting and reforesting down in Brazil.
Correct.
I'm like, nobody understands because, and here's the part that goes back to that congressional hearing that really, this is the part that ticks me off. They're up there speaking as expert witnesses, and they don't know the numbers. They don't know what they're trying to do. They've just been fed a line of BS, and it's their job to repeat it like a parrot. That's all. Mm-hmm. And yet Microsoft is planting trees now, even though Bill Gates says he doesn't plant trees. But anybody that does not understand that this is a load of bull crap, are we that far down the rabbit hole, Jason?
No, in fact, in North Dakota, it's right out in the open. And that was the example I gave, in the last segment about the Petroleum Council. They literally started a new nonprofit because there was new dollars available. Okay. Friends of Ag and Energy was started, okay, to get nonprofit status, the nonprofit dollars pumped into it. So, and then they through a roundabout sort of way, got government money already. Got right to the front of the line through AU2S. Got
and are probably
money.
getting more.
Well, they are because there was some media buys and some other resources being allocated towards this group.
Lignite Energy Council, Jason. Lignite Energy Council just came out, and it's got to go through the Industrial Commission, but $1.1 million grant.
Yeah, and a lot of this enhanced oil recovery, a lot of that is research money, because there's very little accountability in the world of research. And you can really make a lot of money and have a lot of appointed leaders do a lot of dirty things behind the scenes. And so the carbon pipeline in North Dakota, that's a great example of a money grab. That's a great example of a money grab. Flat out, nothing but a money grab. Okay. When you take a look at every angle that Summit has done, every angle Commerce has done, this is a private company. This is not a public company. So it's a private company, and they're taking money from people. They're taking land from people, and they're doing it through the state. Harold Hamm is not going and asking these landowners. No, he's just buying the politicians. Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, Steve, ExxonMobil, and we've talked about Liberty before. I personally think ExxonMobil and Liberty, they're doing very good things when it comes to the energy transition, when it comes to the carbon capture. ExxonMobil is actually educating the steel industry now.
Tell you what, we're up against the break again, but I want to come back after the break and talk about that, because I think it's important to understand what some companies are doing and how they're managing their business side of that. You're tuned to Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday. I'm Steve Bach, along with my co-host Jason Spees. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings right here on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to May 15th on the National Day calendar. Today we're spreading joy with blossoms and indulging in sweet, tiny morsels.
Bring Flowers to Someone Day promotes a simple act of kindness with a long history. The tradition of gifting flowers dates back to ancient times and has been a part of countless cultures around the world. From the victor's laurels in ancient Greece to the romantic bouquets of Victorian England, flowers have been a way to express feelings and brighten people's day. Today, let's add a touch of beauty and kindness to someone's day with a little floral surprise.
Did someone say flowers?
You know, my neighbor has beautiful flowers in their yard, so I went and picked them for you today.
Thanks. What are these?
They're French. They're dandelion.
They look like weeds, Marlo. What? This is not a bouquet.
They're beautiful for 8 minutes, right?
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
From the joy of flowers, we move to the sweetness of Chocolate Chip Day. These delicious morsels were invented by Ruth Graves Wakefield in the 1930s when she decided to add chopped chocolate to her cookie dough, creating what we now know as the iconic chocolate chip cookies. Since then, they've found their way into everything from pancakes to ice cream. So let's enjoy the delightful simplicity of these sweet bits that have made our treats a little more special.
It's just like chocolate chip cookies without chocolate chips. It's just flour. And flour makes chocolate chip cookies, but you need the chocolate chips to make the cookies better. And I'm probably missing some steps.
Chocolate chip cookies are my absolute favorite.
No.
They are.
You dunk them in anything?
Milk, of course.
I don't know.
What? What do you mean you don't know? You don't eat chocolate chip cookies?
I've never dunked it into milk before, so I don't know.
Wow. Here you go. Take this milk. Take this chocolate chip cookie. I'm about to give you the experience of your life.
All right. I appreciate it.
I'm LaToya Johnson.
Marlo Anderson. Hey, this is delicious.
See, you got to listen to me more often. Thank you for joining us on our journey to celebrate every day.
Until next time, keep celebrating and pass me another one of those cookies.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.
Treasurer.
Follow us on
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Like us on Facebook, Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Black along with Jason Speed. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Jason, my co-host, on a Wattage Wednesday on Super Talk 1270's Talk of the Town. And all right, I wanted to give this some time to talk about because I think it's very, very valuable and very important that you expound a little bit on companies that are doing it how I deem is correct and beholden to their mission, because you have to look at the mission statement of a company. Now, you take a Liberty or an X, and we've talked about them a lot and where their space is. They're now an energy company. But you're looking at ExxonMobil, and what are they doing? Well, yeah, they're investing in other things. They're investing in wind and solar, I believe, as well, potential hydrogen, diversifying their portfolio. But what's the one thing they do? They stay true to their mission. So they're not trying to go, yeah, we're going to stop producing refined petroleum products in 5 years. They're not saying that. They're just divesting their portfolio. Are there some other roads that they may go down? Yeah, but they stay true to their mission. They're still in the oil business. They're still in the energy production business, and they're staying there. I think that's important because we're seeing, especially through this nonprofit, where's my free government handout era, is a lot of companies are, oh, well, we do this, we make this widget, but if you're going to give me free money, I'm going to go over there and chase that free widget because you're going to give me money to make that, but that widget doesn't work. But hey, you're going to pay me even if it works or not. What I'm fearful of is going down a road where I turn the heat up in January because it's cold and we're having a snowstorm and my furnace doesn't kick on, or I flip the switch and the lights don't come on and people die. That's what I'm afraid of, because we've gone so far down the road, and you can talk about economy, you can talk about everything else that plays into this, world power, but when people can die, and by the way, more people die when the power doesn't come on or there's a rolling brownout or blackout during the summer months when elderly and at-risk individuals with lung and heart conditions can't have air conditioning. More people die in the summer from lack of electricity than die in the winter from lack of electricity. And we saw what happened down in Texas a few years ago. But that's my concern. So companies like ExxonMobil need to be applauded more, need to be pointed out more that you're doing it right. Thanks for doing what you're doing. If you want to delve into some other areas, great. But keep doing what your mission is. And that is to produce affordable, accessible energy for people who need it.
But it's even evolved beyond that as well, because, take a look at the media industry, which has gone through a paradigm shift, that was the only industry that got me, Steve. I've survived 8 recessions in the 2007 to 2009 paradigm shift of the media. That was the one bankruptcy I had in my life. And I'm very open about that because I learned a lot. I survived 7 or 8 other recessions by having to reinvent myself again and again and again. And that's what the oil and gas companies have had to do. That's what the energy companies have had to do. That's what the carbon management companies have had to do, Steve, because back when I was in the publishing industry, I then went into the multimedia industry, and then I went into the media industry. And guess what, Steve? I'm now in the content industry. So it changes and it evolves. But what's happening in North Dakota is that it's the same thing that happens when you remove the value system from somebody. When you remove the value system from somebody, they are easily manipulated and easily controlled, just like a mouse and cheese. And the cheese is the money. And the mouse are the people without values. When someone has values, they won't go after the cheese if it disrupts or goes against their value system. When you do not have values, you can go out and publicly say 3 years ago, I'm against the Green New Deal. I'm against global warming. I'm against this. And then when the money comes out, you can push everybody aside and rush to the front of the line, Steve. And that's what's happened, is that there are some companies like Exxon, and I'll even say Liberty, because Liberty, remember when they were trying to do the electric frack? I have absolutely no idea what happened with that, but here's what they did do. They took a chance, and from my understanding, most of it was on their own dollar. I don't remember reading too many government grants for the electric frack. They might have got some money for here and there doing something or another, but this was a research project they pretty much took on, from my understanding, and now they're one of the 6 that got the new carbon deal in North Dakota. There's 6 new carbon projects happening in North Dakota, and Liberty's one of them. That made me smile when I heard Liberty got awarded a project in North Dakota, because they were up there with all the big guys. They're up there with Hess. They're up there with Continental. They're up there with, I think, Exxon or XTO might have been in there. And my point is that ExxonMobil understands that they're basically a carbon company. They might still be an energy company, but like Occidental's figured out, they're actually a carbon company. And I said this before, Steve, you're going to see either ag companies get into energy, just like Summit's trying to do, or you're going to see ExxonMobil's get into the farming industry because it's connected through carbon. Just like Steve, just like how me, a former magazine publisher and newspaper reporter, had to become a radio announcer and then a video producer to become a content entrepreneur. That's what the energy companies are going to have to go through, that same sort of growth and evolution. And quite honestly, it is atrocious that we've spent trillions of dollars funding the same leadership over the past 10 years, like Rob Lindbergh from Back to Bakken and Ron Ness with the Petroleum Council, Tessa Sandstrom with the Petroleum Council Foundation, Lynn Helms, the regulator position, and they haven't figured that out yet. And now they're starting to. After 10 years of wasting resources and money. And that's why I bring it up, Steve, because if they would remove that tribal mentality, that if you do not agree 100% with us, we're not going to give you an ounce of time. You can agree 99%, but we're still going to hate you just like we hate our enemy. That tribal mentality has to go. Otherwise, this constant gridlock is going to continue in North Dakota, and it's only going to get worse.
You know, the topic that I think is important here, the takeaway, is carbon company. Because at the end of the day, while you've got this green agenda and the cult of climate change that is chasing a political agenda for dollars, it's all about carbon. CO2 is not the bad guy. Carbon. Carbon is a part of CO2. Carbon is a part of me. Carbon is a part of my dog. Carbon is a part of everything. It comes down to carbon, whether you're looking at oil or gas or coal or corn. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything is carbon based. So sequestering carbon, what's the real agenda that's going on behind the scenes? Because if they're sequestering carbon and we're carbon-based life forms, Bill Gates said it publicly more than once. He says it a lot. You know, it's about reducing the population of the planet. And how do you do that? Well, if you want to go down the conspiracy road theory, there's a lot of places you can go. But
I'd like to, just for at least to put the seed in people's head, because there was a
we're
time
all carbon, Jason.
I know there was a time when our money was backed by gold. There was a time when our money was backed by oil. And I believe there will be a time where our money is going to be backed by our carbon footprint, our personal carbon footprint, our company carbon footprint, everything. Absolutely, man. Based on what your carbon footprint is going to be, that'll be your monetization. What? There was a Justin Timberlake movie where where money was backed by time. So anything's possible, man.
Leave it to you to reference Justin Timberlake. Great interview coming up.
China already has this kind of carbon social score economy already kind of based. You got to tell your phone what you're going to do every day. And then your phone tells you what time your car is coming, what time you can go here, what time you got to eat, and all this stuff. Yeah.
All right, we're up against the break again, but great interview coming up. Looking forward to that. Everybody, thanks for joining us today on a Wattage Wednesday. Jason Spiess, my co-host on this Wattage Wednesday. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Super Talk 1270, Talk of the Town. My name is Jason Spiess, taking the reins the rest of the way here on this Wattage Wednesday. We're going to talk about mental health next. May is Mental Health Month, and mental health is extremely important, no matter which industry you're in. At work, it is extremely important. So we're going to head over to the Zoom line here in just a second. Oh, thumbs up. Here we go. Let's head over to the Zoom line. We've got Thomas Brewer on the line with us. The month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and one of the things Thomas Brewer does is he will visit some heavy industry after some sort of crisis, and there's a marketplace for that. And I've been a big advocate of these types of services for a long time. And Thomas, how are you doing today, by the way?
Man, I'm doing good, Jason, and I appreciate you having me on. And man, I appreciate that over the past few years, you have been one of my great encouragers and supporters while trying to help people through a crisis. You've been one of my advocates out there for me.
Well, I think mental health is so important in the workplace, and you were ahead of it before it was trendy. I mean, that was one of the things I always appreciated was, and the example I like to give people, have you ever seen the movie There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis?
No, I don't believe so.
So great movie about he's an oil prospector back turn of the century.
Oh, man, I'm actually at my home office right now. I'm going to write that down and check that movie out.
Oh, one of the greatest movies, probably, top 5 in most people's lists of, cinephiles or whatever they're called, people who really like movies and things like that. But so Daniel Day-Lewis plays this oil prospector, and one of the kind of the underlying threads, and this is true actually, and you can even go back to Las Vegas. Mormons settled Las Vegas. A lot of people don't know this, but the Las Vegas was actually settled by Mormons, and because what ends up happening is that when you can bring some sort of faith or some sort of calmness, some sort of peace into a place with constant chaos, and when you've got machines churning and chains flying and all kinds of different fight or flight activities happening on a regular basis, peace becomes a very monetizable thing. And then There Will Be Blood, and then the beginning of Las Vegas and the roots there, it really showed that when, a chaplain, it was actually a chaplain back then, some of these guys that are away from their families, when there was a chaplain around or a minister or a priest, they didn't go out to the bars as much. And so they weren't hung over the next day, and they weren't out, with the prostitutes or the ladies of the evening. So they weren't going through family problems and divorce and things like that. So that was one of the main reasons why I saw what you were doing. And I thought, boy, the oil and gas industry and now just heavy industry whether it be the energy industry, the carbon management, mining, whatever, agriculture, places that where it's a flight or flight type of an environment, bringing in peace, bringing in a sounding board, bringing in somebody who can bring down the nerves, bring down just the mental wellness aspect and have a corral on it. Anyways, I'll let you kind of get going. I really enjoyed the service that you provide, because to me, it's what nonprofits should be providing. It's what churches should be providing.
Oh, absolutely.
And go ahead.
Absolutely.
Sorry. I'll just let you go for a
Oh,
bit.
man. No, Jason, you're spot on. And, being what I call a crisis consultant in any industry, but with the oil and gas, heavy equipment, anywhere where there's a potential of encountering a SIF, a serious injury or fatality, that is really where my passion and my wheelhouse is, because my desire, my goal for any organization, any company that I work with is 0 SIFs, 0 serious injuries or fatalities. I know when we get into these, very large companies out there that, there's been discussions out there where they, meet together as leadership and as the boards and say, we're okay with this percentage of injuries and this percentage of fatalities, and accidents are going to happen. That's the reality of life. Bad thing, I operate under 2 rules. Rule number 1 is bad things happen to good people. And rule number 2 is we can't change rule number 1. That bad things are going to happen to good people. As hard as we try, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be fatalities, unfortunately. But my goal, and the goal that I tried to convey to every company, is let's set the goal at 0. Let's put the bar as high as we can, set it at 0, and let that be our standard of 0 serious injuries and fatalities. And a lot of times when you really get at the root cause of why there was an injury on the work site, within the company, or if, God forbid, there was a fatality, that really, if you start investigating it and really get down to the nuts and bolts of what caused that, it wasn't the equipment. It was usually, and it can be related back to that one person or multiple people on the work site are distracted by a crisis off the work site, back home with their family, in their personal life, with their children, whatever it might be, that their head is not in the game. They're not totally focused on the task at hand because they're distracted because of something not even related to the company, not even related to the work site, that they are distracted because of a crisis that they are personally going through. And because of that, they're not totally focused on the task, on the job that is currently in front of them. And because of that, there's fatalities and there's injuries that take place. So what kind of tools can we give our employees? How can we work with the people on our crews in such a way that we can really set the bar, set the goal at 0 SIFs, 0 serious injuries or fatalities for our company and for our work site?
Mr. Thomas Brewer, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought for just a moment or two. We're going to take a brief pause. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. Mental health, industry, Wattage Wednesday. You're listening to Super Talk 1270's Talk of the Town. My name is Jason Spies, sitting in for Steve Bach until the end of the show, right here on Talk of the Town.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
To Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Super Talk 1270's Talk of the Town. My name is Jason Spees, sitting in for Steve Bakken, taking the reins here on the program till the end of the show. Thomas Brewer is our guest. He's with the TB Group. We're talking about mental health at the workplace, heavy industry to be specific. Serious injuries, that's a subjective term at times because we live in a day and age of, mental health issues, suicide, that type of thing, to where when you're away from your family or you're in stressful type situations, the body needs to de-stress. And so sometimes you maybe do things that go against, you make impulse decisions, right? You make impulse decisions because your body is so overstressed. And talk about that mental health side of things, because part of a very healthy workplace is that social aspect. And sometimes, you can have a little bit too much social and it can lead to problems.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned just a minute ago, Jason, the issue of suicide. And that's one of the things that we're beginning to realize in, industry, whether it's oil and gas, carbon, wind, any heavy equipment industry, where there's a lot of pressure on the job, getting tasks done, that in just recent years, they begin to start tracking the high suicide rate that is unfortunately within these industries that has really been the unspoken factor that's out there because of the pressure. It's like, a story, say you're out on a work site, you've got, basically 24 hours to get the job done. It's crunch time, you're on the clock, your crew's on the clock, but you've got a crisis back home. You've got a child, who is, maybe 6 hours away with their mother. They're having to rush them to the emergency room because they've got a high fever, and you can't leave in that moment because you've got to get your job done. And just the pressures, just the heavy pressure that's on all the employees that they're beginning to see, and we're beginning to see these numbers being tracked that, not only with our military and our first responders do we see the suicide rates high because of the trauma and the pressures that they are under. And that's where my background has been for over 22 years, is in the first responder world. But that in heavy industry and the oil and gas market and all these where there's high pressure, high stress, away from your family at all hours, not being able to keep a schedule, being called in, that we're seeing that suicide rates are also high. And not only with, zero serious injuries or fatalities, I want the zero suicide rate. And how do we do that? It's through a program that I developed that's basically called Safety Pulse Check. And it's taken a mental pulse check of our own life, of our own mind, brain health, making sure we've got our head in the game for the task in front of us, for the job in front of us. But it's not only that we will do a pulse check on ourselves and make sure we're ready to go, but the people we're working with, that we're entrusting our safety and our success with, that we're pulse checking them also. And it's not a kumbaya. It's not that we get in a circle and hold hands. It's just being a compassionate human, taking time to have a conversation with your fellow man or woman and just making sure everybody's good to go. And throughout the day, as you're working, as you're grinding away on these work sites, trying to, be a successful employee, be a successful crew, that you guys are just taking care of each other. And that's doing a mental pulse check on each other. And I tell people all the time in my training, will you be known as a pulse checker? Will you be known as somebody that not only will pulse check yourself to make sure you're good to go, but you're going to also make sure those around you are good to go, where we go to zero serious injuries and fatalities.
Thomas Brewer is our guest. What's the name of your company? Is it just Thomas TB Associates, or what's the name of your TB Group?
Yeah, TB Group LLC. So
TB Group.
TB Group LLC, my initials, and then Group LLC. You can actually go to tbgroupllc.com. I'm also on Facebook. You can connect with me on LinkedIn under Thomas Brewer on Facebook. And my phone number, I actually don't mind giving it out. It's 405-833-7229. If I can ever serve any of your listeners, if they want to have a conversation on the training that I do and how they can, help their employees and their company, man, I'd be glad to have a conversation with them and see what we could do to assist them.
Some statistics here on mental health in the workplace. Globally, around 12 billion working days or 50 million years of work are lost every year with depression and anxiety due to depression. So people taking time off of work.
Yeah.
And then mental health issues cost the global economy around $1 trillion every year. And, I come from the media basically, where we saw a lot of mental health issues. I mean, you're dealing with ratings, you're dealing with deadlines, you're dealing with type A personalities. I remember, in talking with old radio retirees, and the common phrase I got from retirees in the radio industry is that they'd wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat because, the top of the hour break was coming, and because in radio, your whole existence is deadline. It's down to the second. So if you don't hit something, it causes this chain reaction of things to happen. So for me, it was really easy to see how that supply chain of safety works in the oil and gas industry. Of course, having an agriculture background too helped as well, because agriculture generally is the most dangerous, has the most fatalities out of any industry. At least it was that way for like 50 years, for a very long time. Agriculture is extremely dangerous industry. And so when you're talking about agriculture, or you're talking about media, you're talking about mental health, you're talking about a different dynamic, because you're talking more about a social mental health, a community mental health. And that's where we're going to pick up the conversation on the flip side of the break with Thomas Brewer of the TB Group. We're talking mental health at the workplace, specifically more the heavy industry, but it's applicable everywhere. And when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about how it works in communities, how leadership and workplace affects communities. My name is Jason Spiess. You're listening to Super Talk 1270's Talk of the Town.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Super Talk 1270's Talk of the Town. My name is Jason Spiess, sitting in for Steve Bakken here till the end of the program. He'll be back tomorrow. Thomas Brewer is our guest with the TB Group. May is Mental Health Month. We're talking about mental health in the workplace, specifically the oil and gas industry, the mining industry, the heavy industries, if you will. But this is very applicable to any workplace USA, as well as communities. And that's where we want to focus next, is that community mental health, which bleeds into industry. In the agriculture world, for example, if you lose one of your community leaders to a silo accident or an auger accident or something like that, that impacts the entire community.
Absolutely.
And in the media, for example, if you've got a type A personality, being a passive aggressive narcissist, disrupting people's lives, that disrupts the mental health as well. Talk to me about that kind of that community, that social, that whole workplace environment, because mental health is infectious and it can be positive or it can be negative.
100% correct. Absolutely. And, as you were speaking, it made me think about the whole community aspect. And through my training, through this 2-hour training program that I developed for companies to, go to the goal of 0 shifts, one of the things we talk about in the training that I addressed is if you have a company and employees who are on the same page and are going to be known as a pulse checker of themselves and to each other, that you're going to be within an organization that cares about the person as an individual, as a human, and not just a number. So when somebody is having a crisis go on in their personal life, maybe they've lost a parent, maybe they've lost a child, maybe they've went through a divorce, whatever it might be, the trauma, the tragedy of the experience, instead of taking days off, because you were just talking about because of mental health, how much, it costs the industry, our society in days off. What if community life was so good within your company that instead of somebody sitting at home by themselves taking a day off, they go, man, I might not be 100% today. I might not be my cheerful self, but I don't want to sit at home by myself. I would rather be at work where a person or persons, my whole crew, cares about me, and I just want to be around people. I've got enough. I'm safe enough to go work. I've got my head in the game enough where I'm not going to get injured or get somebody killed. I'm not distracted to the point where I can't go to work. I just don't want to take a day off and sit by myself. I want to be in community. I want to be in community with my coworkers, because here's one of the things we don't think about, Jason, in the workplace, that many times on average professional jobs, whether it's an office job or a worksite job, we spend more awake hours. Think about this. We spend more awake hours with our coworkers than we do our significant other awake. That actually hours awake in a given week, we spend more hours with our coworkers awake than we do awake with our significant other at home. So it's a secondary family. And to be known as a pulse checker, as somebody that's going to check up on your fellow employees, do that pulse check, it's going to make them want to come back to work sooner. It's going to make them want to be in community with each other, because one of the goals of this training that, I hope to help these companies with is to increase employee retention. And, make it where an employee will want to stay with your company more than going to another company. And with that, when you increase employee retention, you lower employee onboarding costs. So it's a win-win. Not only are you getting the safety factor in the company, you're getting that community group where you care about each other, but then you're also retaining employees and lowering your onboarding costs, because you're not having to train employees every couple of weeks because people are just jumping to other companies one after another. They found a community, they found a workplace where they're cared for and respected, and truly their emotional mental health is cared for by not only their company, but their fellow workers, and they're going to want to stay in that environment more than chasing another company and even sometimes a greater paycheck.
How the evolution of mental health has happened. And, your background primarily was job sites of tragedies, whether there was a death, whether there was an explosion, whether there was an accident, something jaw-jarring, flight or or flight type of a thing. So we're talking about, almost talking someone down off the ledge type of emotional situation. Well, yes. now the, emotional well-being and mental health has become very subjective. It's becoming monetizable. It's becoming a market. And Absolutely. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that has changed. And when you have change, you have abuse, and you have some new good things happen, but then you have some bad things happen too. We're becoming Absolutely. Subjective now with our mental health. And some people get to have mental health issues and some people don't. We're almost getting into the picking and choosing now because it's trendy and everything. What have you experienced from your years and your hours that you've spent primarily on this extreme flight or fight, what I call the hardcore side of mental health? Like I said, where you're almost talking someone down off a ledge because they just saw their best friend die on the job site. I mean, we're having kids that can call in a mental health day on the way to work. I don't feel like it today. I'm going to have a mental health day. I mean, we're getting kind of, and by the way, how can you even talk about it? How can you put down someone? That's what I mean. It's a touchy subject. So you as an expert, sir, what have your observations been?
Absolutely. So my background, and I'll speak from the oil and gas market. I've also been with companies in the office building that are, it can range from whatever type of company it is, working through what they call employee assistance programs, EAP, doing their on-site response. But like within the oil and gas industry, the heavy industry, where there can be injuries and fatalities, going on site, coworkers exposed to the not only the loss of an employee, of a friend, of a coworker, but many times what they saw, and just dealing with that, processing through that, allowing them to have a safe place to talk to somebody, to unload on somebody like myself, and helping really talk them down, give them the tools that they need to just get through the next few moments, the next hour, the next day, the next weeks, years. So that's been my background. But in recent years, Jason, the buzzword has been wellness. We're going to get into wellness, and you're seeing companies and our military first responders start these wellness units, and it's all great, man. I love it. I love that we're doing this, but it's a new process. And you're right. There's some great aspects about it. There's some that, some people don't understand. So there's a balance with it. And that's one of the things that I'm doing now through the training that I've developed.
Mr. Thomas Brewer, TB Group, thank you very much. We're up against the break. Folks, that's going to do it for Talk of the Town. My name is Jason Spees. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time today. Steve Bakken is back tomorrow.
Welcome to the School for Startups Minute with Jim Beach.
This week, we have been talking about how to become more patient. Today, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to remind you of something, and I'll do that right after this.
This is Dr. Michael Garko for Strauss Naturals. The heart is only a bit larger than a fist. Each day, it pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. With this extraordinary workload, I encourage you to take Strauss Heart Drops to help support a healthy cardiovascular system. The Heart Drops are backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. No questions asked. Visit StraussNaturals.com to learn more and order the Heart Drops today.
Being impatient is an incredibly selfish thing to be. Everything is about me. I am late. I am not getting what I want. I need it now. It's all about you. There is not an emotion that is more egocentric than being impatient. You're demanding that the entire world coordinate their schedule around you. Take a step back and realize that you are part of a bigger system, that there are other people with other problems and other issues. Perhaps the person is late because there was a death in the family. Not everything is about you. Quit putting yourself at the center of everything, and you will feel more patient and you will be much happier.
It's Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken on Super Talk 1270. Join Steve weekday mornings between 9 and 11 for interesting local talk and special guests, plus your phone calls. Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Talk of the Town thanks our sponsors: Dakota Pharmacy, Benchmark Mortgage, Trademark Realty, Silver Ranch, and Runnings.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.